Hello, investors. It is Connor Bates, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 4:41 p.m. Eastern Time, coming to you from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state, we have that green uptrend on the board. If we look at the trend gauge, we have the four coveted green arrows. Market leaders are acting well. They deserve the green arrow. Short term, we're trending above the 21 EMA, medium term holding above the 50 simple moving average, and long term, this is our 200-day simple moving average. And as we talk about all the time, the market doesn't get into serious trouble until we have a sustained break below, and we have the green arrow for that as well. So what happened today was pretty much tight rest day, leaders consolidating, and about the best action you could ask for after an 8-day rip off the lows. So here are the final numbers. 21 over 21, down 0.08%, 9 up, 1 flat, 10 red. Big 8 down 0.13%, RG8 down 0.87%, S&P down 0.16, equal weight down 0.4, QQQ down 0.21, equal weight down 0.47, Dow Jones down 0.24, mid caps down 0.83, Russell 2000 down about 1%, 60/40 down 0.07, and in-house GROTECTION down 0.23%. So as always, we'll get into the inter-asset correlation, and I'll start with the S&P 500. So after an 8-day move off the lows, virtually 500 points, we got a rest day today, which, like I just mentioned, this is great action. I mean, it popped up into 56.20 off the open and then cooled off. And if we look at the 60-minute, you can see this pretty much 500-point vertical move off the lows into a 5,600 psych level. So it makes sense to rest, and resting on low volume, lighter volatility is a win in our view. And if we started to see a lot of distribution and stuff like that, that would be a red flag. But today's action was good, and exactly what you want to see on a digestion/down day. QQQ, similar thing, digesting, holding above the 50-day. Dow Jones, digesting. These averages are starting to slope back up. Mid caps, down a little, showed a little more relative weakness versus big tech and the S&P, but all things considered, it's still holding above, and you're getting that power of three here again, 8, 21, and 50-day all getting stacked up. Russell 2000, similar, kind of setting up a power of three here, holding above. Relative strength, would like to see this hook back up. And one thing to know with indexes, after 8 days, there were some of the secondary indicators that we use were flashing, maybe consolidation pullback is on the horizon. The percent of stocks above the 5-day moving average for info tech stocks hit 94 yesterday. The put to call ratio hit its lowest levels since 2023 yesterday as well. So a couple of the secondary indicators were kind of saying, hey, maybe the market needs to rest a bit, and we got that a little bit today. The VIX up 6%, but still not much downside for the indexes, with the VIX bouncing and continues to be below 16, which we want to see. The dollar continues to break down. All last week, we were mentioning this bear flag, and it's playing out, and it's continuing to the downside. Gold, with the dollar breaking down, this continues to be strong, seeing great action in gold miners as well. Here's GDX and some names, Newmont, AEM, etc. Those names are acting great. Silver, starting to make the turn. It broke this downtrend line from this RS line, downtrend line, back above the 21-day versus the RS line, and this is getting back above the 50-day. So this 27.24 was that previous breakout spot right here. So maybe it reclaims that, and sometimes these undercut and reclaim setups can be good. And then if we go to the weekly, still in a stage 2 base. So Bitcoin, big move off the lows and now kind of forming a bull flag here, but you do have this downward sloping 50-day to work with. But overall, as long as it can hold, these shakeout lows, it's in good shape, but still not a ton of momentum. B&B breaking out of a big base looks great. TLT, same thing. Just this is a big cup base, and now it's starting to handle out a little bit. So this area of the market looks great. And with that looking good, 30-year breaking lower out of the bear flag. We highlighted that all last week as well. And then TNX breaking lower out of this bear flag as well. And one last quick thing with the S&P 500. Don also mentioned that it was at 2 ATR extensions from the 21 day. And from our studies, that is another area that the market sometimes tends to pause. And that doesn't mean that the market's going to pull back. It could consolidate via time versus price. So that's the interasset correlation. Let's get into the tape. Let's see. Okay, so FOMC minutes tomorrow at 2 p.m. And then Friday we have Powell speaking at Jackson Hole. And everyone remembers this one in 2022 when the market had that huge negative reversal at the Jackson Hole meeting. Day count, we moving this to a consolidation 1, 8 days above the 8 EMA, 6 above the 21. And like I mentioned, the action, we just hit that high day early in the morning and then pretty much chopped, bounced off 55.85 and then was just kind of range bound, which is nothing we can complain about. Uranium, silver, Bitcoin, cyber was strong today. And I'll bring up the PANW, Palo Alto Networks chart when I get back into it. They had a strong earnings gap. And then weakness, oil, regional banks, ARC. In-house, we took a starter in Starbucks, which I'll cover. And then we also added to UPRO. And yeah, so tomorrow we're going to be looking, is this consolidation via time or price? And then, what names continue to stand out and where can we find low risk entries as the market is still somewhat extended, you could say. And our adjusted beta got knocked back up to 1.35. So let's get into the charts. So cybersecurity was strong. PANW, really strong gap today, up closing the day up 7% on 338% above average volume. Now, this isn't the cheapest stock, as you can see, in pretty lackluster earnings and sales for this quarter, but price doesn't lie, and this is breaking out through this 345. And we're seeing specifically in cybersecurity, we're seeing rotation, obviously out of CrowdStrike, which had that huge negative news, negative catalyst to the downside. We're seeing rotation into, PANW, FTNT. These ones are showing the new leadership. So that's something to note. And then our buy today, Starbucks. Now, this had huge volume on the news of the CEO. And if you look at his track record, he's a proven winner. When he was at Chipotle, the stock appreciated almost 700%. So found ourselves a pretty low risk entry here. And so, this gap low is key, and it's pretty low risk there. You got the stochastic hooking up on the 60, and this daily is forming a nice flag. Volume's cooling off as it consolidates. These moving averages are starting to catch up. Obviously, the relative strength line's having a huge bounce. So see if this one can get some more momentum. And then obviously UPRO with the S&P, tight inside day, good risk to reward. So let's take a look at the portfolio. Lilly had some great news this morning about their one drug. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but it basically lowered the chance of diabetes by 94%. And this continues to be really strong, right up the right side. Paused at these left side peak highs, but overall tons of strength. Race, day 4, higher high. This was a textbook based breakout and continues to follow through. Starbucks, which I mentioned. Spotify, this looks like it wants to, thrust through this base any day now. Palantir, for moving up 50% in less than a month, and this is the first red day down 0.5%. This is what we're talking about, seeing how the stocks are holding up. And this is just pure accumulation and controlled digestion. ITB hanging in there above the 21, like we mentioned last night, watching the 8 on this one. Toll Brothers reports tomorrow pre-market. That's a home builder one to watch. CEG getting super tight right below this pivot here, seeing if this can crack and get back above this 50-day along with that key 200 level. Uber consolidating nicely. Kava resting at a logical point, this 96, 97, top tier 3 separate times. It broke back above on Monday, now retesting it today. NVIDIA tight inside day. Coupang coming back to the base breakout, so we'll see. And then Upstart again is down 5%, but you got to look at the character of the stock. The ADR of this stock is sometimes can be 9-10%. So it's just because the stock is only down 1%, if that's a full 1 to 2 ATR, then that you wouldn't consider that tight. But this down 5%, still tight, still holding above the high volume close and the pivot. Let's look at some of the names in the 21 over 21. Lilly, we covered. ALNY, this is a medical name breaking out of high tight flag. Monster earnings gap earlier. Coherent, this is one of Druckenmiller's top names. They had a strong earnings report and just trending higher up the right side. FTNT. IoT, this is one that we're interested in. Historically, has been a choppy stock, buy on strength, down. Just, every time it gets to the top, it comes back in, and it was evident here too. But price action is starting to look a little bit more linear. The moving averages are starting to hook back up. We're seeing that relative strength line make higher highs. So if this one can finally break out, maybe you get a change in character and price action. APP, similar look, straight off the bottom, getting a tight range here. And yeah, and some of the weak ones today, if you consider this weak, NVIDIA, which I just meant, SC, this one had a super strong reaction to earnings, and now it's starting to consolidate. Couple days of tight action could be good. And then Shark Ninja, this is another one we've been watching. Strong earnings gap, and now, in this tight range, some more sideways could be good, set up a better low risk entry. And that's kind of what we're thinking. I'll just show you the 60-minute. This is a favorable stochastic entry, and one thing that we utilize in-house is if a name's extended, you might not always get that picture perfect daily setup that you're looking for. So sometimes you have to, narrow down your time frame and lower it, and the 60-minute can be a good gauge. The stochastics quite oversold here, and this is consolidating nicely with a daily chart. So just a potential tool to add to your arsenal for sometimes finding your way into the leaders, because as you know, if institutions are pouring into a stock and sometimes you might not get those clean pullbacks that you want to get, and sometimes you have to get creative with getting into a name. And so yeah, that's kind of the name of the game right now, finding low risk entries, monitoring the volume on names. If they're pulling back on light volume, could be a good entry, and just making sure we're not seeing distribution pile up in the indexes. So, and some economic news later this week, and anytime Powell's speaking, the market can get erratic. So something to be aware of. So that is going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. My email is Connor@Revere Asset, and you can reach out to Dan or Don at Revere Asset. Phone is 855 Real Wealth. That is 855-732-5932. And you can always reach out to me on Twitter at Connor J Bates _. And if you're interested in becoming a client, please reach out. And with that, I'll wrap it for Tuesday, August 20th. This is Connor Bates with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening, and have a good rest of your night.